Hi, welcome to our new YouTube tutorial. In this video we're going to be building navigation with the Hamburger menu. This little project is going to be built based on HTML, CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. So I expect that you already know the basic stuff of those three technologies. Let's go ahead and describe the project. As you can see, we have here a landing page with a full screen background image. There is placed a menu icon with 3 lines at the top right corner. If I click it, then those lines will be transformed into X and the navigation will be displayed with a different green background. We have here a couple of navigation items, and if I hover over them, they will stretch with some nice effect. If I click again X, then the navigation will close. Alright, that's it what we're going to do. Let's get started. I have created a new folder on the desktop called Hamburger Menu, in which I have another folder with a single image. It will be used for the full screen background. Let's go ahead and open this folder in VS Code. First of all, let's create our working files. Overall, we will have 3 different files. First one is going to be index.html. Then we need style.css. And finally, we need script.js. Then open index.html file and insert here the basic structure of HTML document. For that I'm going to use emmet. We have to place here an exclamation mark and then we need to hit the enter or tab. Alright, so the basic HTML document is generated. Next, let's link CSS and JavaScript files. I'm going to open link tag and we need to indicate here the path of the file. Let's insert the name of the file, style.css. Also, we need to open script tag right above the closing body tag, and in source attribute we have to indicate the name of the file. Also, let's change the title. Insert here Hamburger Menu. And finally, I'm going to use one of the Google fonts. So let's go ahead and bring in the link. I'm going to search for Google fonts. Then visit the first link and search for the dancing script. So here it is. Let's customize it a little bit. I'm going to select semi-bold font. Then grab the link and paste it in the head element. Okay, now it's time to run this file to the browser. For that I'm going to use a package called Live Server. It allows us to update the changes without refreshing the page each time. So you can install this package from the extension manager. In order to run the file with the live server, we have to use right click and then we need to choose Open with Live Server. Lastly, let's organize our working environment a little bit. Alright, that's it. We are ready to go. Let's start to build an HTML markup. I'm going to open a div element, which should be the container. So let's assign to it class name container. Then we need a header element, which actually will wrap the entire navigation. Assign to it class name header. Next we need to use another HTML5 semantic element. It's going to be nav with the class name navigation. So the navigation will consist of 3 different parts. The first one is going to be a menu icon. So let's open the button with the class Hamburger Menu. This button will contain 3 lines and those lines will be represented by div elements. It should have 2 different classes. First one is going to be a common class name line. As for the second one, it's going to be line 1. Then let's duplicate this line of code twice and change class names. We need line 2 and line 3. Okay, that's it about the button. Next we need to open a div element. It will be used to create the background for the navigation, I mean the green background, which expands when we click the icon. So let's assign to this div element class name bg cover. Next comes the navigation items. So let's open UL element with the class name navList. The list will contain a couple of items, so I'm going to open li element, which should have class navItem. And also we need a link with the class name navLink. Okay, the first item is going to be home. Then let's duplicate li element 4 times and then change the values. Second one is going to be about us. Then I'm going to insert documentation, followed by reviews, and finally let's insert contact. Alright, that's it about the HTML markup. Let's open CSS file and start to write some CSS. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create some reset styles. So I'm going to select every element using asterisk and then set margin and padding to 0. Next, I'm going to take care of the header background. So let's go ahead and select header element with class name header. First of all, let's set width and height. I'm going to set width to 100%. As for the height, I'm going to assign to it 100. And actually, I'm going to use viewport height as a measurement unit. It means that we set height as 100% of the viewport. So let's use VH. Next, we need background. At first, I'm going to use linear gradient. Let's use here white color twice, but with different opacity. The first one will have opacity 0.3. As for the second one, it's going to be 0.5. Then I'm going to indicate the URL of the image. Let's insert here the path. We have folder called images and we need to select bg.jpg. Then I'm going to use fixed, center, and also no repeat. And finally, we need to define the size of background. Let's use here cover. Alright, so here we have our full screen background image. And next I'm going to take care of the menu icon. So let's go ahead and select the button, which has a class name, Hamburger Menu. First of all, I'm going to define its width and height, and also the background color. Let's set width and height, both of them, to 55 pixels. As for the background color, I'm going to use 67B67B. As you see, by default the button is placed at the top left corner of the page, but we have to place it at the top right corner. So let's make its position fixed. And also define the top and right properties. I'm going to set both of them to 30 pixels. So now the button is placed in the right way and we have to take care of the lines. Before that, let's customize the button a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the default border with border none. Also, we need to make it rounded. For that, I'm going to use border radius with the value 50%. Then get rid of default outline. and also make the cursor pointer. Okay, right now that's it about the button. It's time to work on the lines. First of all, let's select them with a common class name, with line, and make them visible. For that, we have to define a width, height, and also we need to set background color. Let's make width 30 pixels. Then as the height, I'm going to use 2 pixels. As for the background color, let's make it light using color EEE. Alright, now as you can see, the lines are visible, but they are placed too close to each other. We need some space between them, and for that, let's use margin. I'm going to set margin 2 pixels on top and bottom, and 0 on the left and right sides. Okay, now they look much better, but as you can see, we have to center them perfectly inside the circle. For that, I'm going to use flexbox. We have to assign to the button display flex. Then we need to change the direction. We have to make it column, because by default they are set as a row. Then, in order to center flex items vertically, we have to use justify content center. As for the horizontal centering, we need to use align items center. Okay, that's it. The icon is looking good. And now we have to move on and take care of the background of the navigation. As you remember, we created an empty div with the class name bgcover. It's going to be placed behind the menu icon, and when we click the icon, it should expand to the entire page. First of all, let's give it some shape and place it behind the menu icon. So I'm going to select bgcover. Let's define its background color. I'm going to use here RGBA value. Let's insert here 103, 182, 123, and 0.9. After that, let's set width and height, both of them to 45 pixels. Right now it is placed at the top left corner. Actually, it is a default behavior of the element. We have to place it at the top right corner, like the menu icon. So let's go ahead and make its position fixed. And then set top and right properties, both of them to 35 pixels. Okay, so as you can see, div element is placed at the top right corner, but actually the menu icon ended up behind it. We need here the opposite, and in order to achieve that, I'm going to manipulate with z-index property. The menu icon should have z-index with a higher value than the div element. So let's assign to button z-index with a value, let's say 300. As for the bgcover, let's use z-index and assign to it 100. Okay, now the problem is fixed, and finally we need to make div element rounded. For that, I'm going to use border radius with the value 50%. Alright, that's it about the background. Actually, everything is ready to take care of the hamburger menu. To transform those lines into X when we click the icon. At first, I want to transform lines into X without any click event. For that, we have to use rotate and translate functions. So let's go ahead and start with the first line. I'm going to select it with the class name line1. Actually, before we move the line, I'm going to change the origin of transformation. By default, lines move according to the center, but in our case, we need to rotate them according to the right edge. Therefore, we need to use transform origin, and we have to set it as right. After that, let's rotate the first line. We need to use transform with the rotate function. And I'm going to rotate the line by 40 degrees, but we need here the negative value. As for the second line, it should be hidden, so let's select it and set opacity to 0. Like the first line, we need to rotate the third one as well, but in the opposite direction. I'm going to duplicate this entire code, then change the class name. We need line 3, and also get rid of the minus sign. Okay, so as you can see, we have here X, but it doesn't look good. We need to move both lines a little bit. For that, let's use translate function. We have to move lines according to the Y axis. Let's insert here -5 pixels. And then we need just 5 pixels. Alright, that's it. We have here perfect X, and now it's time to take care of the navigation itself. I'm going to expand BG cover to the entire page, and then I'm going to style the navigation items. In order to do that, I'm going to use transform with the scale function. It allows us to increase the size of the element. Let's set scale as 150. Now, as you can see, background is displayed on the entire page, but the navigation items ended up behind it, and actually we can fix that using z-index property. I'm going to select list element with the class name navList. First of all, we have to define its position, otherwise the z-index property won't work. So let's set position to fixed, and then use z-index. So we need to set the value of the z-index property between 100 and 300, because it should be higher than the z-index of background cover and lower than the z-index of a button. So let's make it 200. Alright, now as you can see, the list is placed in the right way, and it's time to style the navigation items. First of all, let's define the width and height for the nav list. I'm going to make its height 100% of the viewport, and I'm going to do the same regarding its width. Let's make it 100% of the viewport. And then place the items in the center using flexbox. We need again display flex. Then we have to set the direction as column. And in order to center the list perfectly, we need justify content center and also align items center. Finally, I'm going to get rid of the default bullets from the list items using list style none. Alright, after that, let's create some space between the items. For that, let's select the li element with the class navItem. Let's create space using margin. And I'm going to use here viewport height as the measurement unit of margin. Actually, it will allow us to make the space between items more responsive on different screen sizes. So I'm going to use margin 1.5 VH on top and bottom, and then 0 on the left and right sides. Okay, let's go ahead and style the link element. Select it with the class name navLink. First of all, let's change the font family. I'm going to use our Google font, Dancing Script, and the font family group, cursive. Then make it bolder using font weight. Let's set it as 600. And also increase the font size. Make it 2 rems. After that, I'm going to create some space between the letters using letter spacing with value 0.4 rem. Also, let's transform text into uppercase, get rid of the default styles for the link element using text decoration none, and finally change the color, make the items white. Okay, that's it about the items. They look good, and the only thing that we have to do is to create the hover effect. Actually, on hover we are going to increase the space between the letters. So let's select nav link with the hover, then set letter spacing to 0.8 rem, and besides that we need a transition in order to make the effect smoother. Let's indicate here letter spacing with the duration 0.2 seconds. Alright, so if we hover over the items, then we will get a nice cool effect. Okay, now it's time to make the menu icon work, and for that we're going to add a new class to the lines, and then we will add this class to the navigation using JavaScript. Actually, we will use the toggle method to add and remove this class dynamically on each click. So let's select all 3 lines using the multi-cursor and add to them the class name change. After that, let's open JavaScript file. The first thing that we have to do is to select the button, because we need to attach to it event listener. Let's select the element using query selector method. We have to specify here the class name Hamburger Menu, then attach to it add event listener. We need to use click event followed by the arrow function. So now we need to select navigation, use again query selector method, and select nav element which has class name navigation. So as we said, we are going to use the toggle method, which actually allows us to add and remove a class name. So we have to attach toggle method to the class list property, which itself stores all the classes that belong to navigation. So let's use class list and attach to it toggle method. Inside the parentheses we need to indicate the class name which we have created a minute ago, I mean class change. Alright, so now if I click the icon, then we will get an X. Actually we need here some smooth transition, so let's assign to lines transition. We need here all and duration 0.5 seconds. So now if I click again, then we will get a much better effect. Alright, so we have to do a couple of things here. By default we need to hide background cover and expand it on click. Also I'm going to change the background colors for lines and the button as well. So we need again class change followed by the class bg cover, and we need to use transform with scale function and with the value 150. Also we need to get rid of scale from background cover because we don't need it anymore. So as you see, by default background is hidden, but once I click the icon then it is displayed. Again we need here transition with transform and with the duration 0.5 seconds. Alright, actually we are almost done. The next thing that we have to do is to change the background color for lines and also for the button itself. So let's assign to line 1 and line 3 background color with the value 67B, 67B. As for the button, first of all we need to select class change, followed by Hamburger Menu, and we need to set background color to EEF0EB. And finally, let's use again transition with all and with the duration 0.5 seconds. Okay, so now if I click, everything will work fine except the one thing. As you see, when we close the navigation, then the items are still visible. Actually, we don't need it. We have to make them hidden. And for that, let's assign to the list element opacity 0. And also we need visibility hidden. After that, we have to select list, but with a class change. We need to assign to it opacity 1 and visibility visible. And lastly, let's use again transition with opacity 1 second. Alright, so now if I test, everything will work fine. And actually we can say that our project is done. Hopefully it was interesting and you enjoyed it, learned some cool stuff, which then you can use in your own projects, and also you can feel free and enhance this project on your own. If you like this video, then please thumbs up, comment below, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell to get notified about the coming videos. Okay, see you in the next tutorial.